Hi, it's Nicole. Today I'd like to introduce you to an independent UK publisher and bookseller called Persephone Books and show you my small collection. I've been thinking about how to describe how special Persephone is. It's always lovely to receive books as a present, but if you open the wrapping paper and it's one of this, it's like, oh, it's a Persephone book. I don't need to know what the book is about. As long as it has this iconic grey jacket, I know it's going to be good. Then I look forward to finding out what the book is actually about. It's all very exciting. So firstly, the publisher. Persephone Books was founded in 1999 by Nicola Bowman, who is a writer herself. They reprint works that are little known or lost. They call it neglected, which I think is very nice. Mostly from mid-20th century women writers, and they reintroduce them to the readers. I'd love to hear how they discovered the titles and how they judge and decide if it's worth a reprint. They are going to talk about it at their festival this month, but unfortunately I can't go this year. I'll tell you about the festival a bit later. They have published 149 books so far, including fiction like novels and short stories, and non-fiction like diaries, memoirs, and cookery books. Among the authors, there are well-known names like Virginia Woolf, Leonard Woolf, E.M. Forster, and Catherine Mansfield. But most of them I've never heard of, but are hidden gems. Some immediately intriguing ones are Charles Dickens' great-granddaughter, for example, Monica Dickens, and Edward Thomas' wife, Helen Thomas. It sounds like Persephone Books started in 1999 as a passion project by the founder, and it grew and flourished over the years. It started in a basement in London. When they got enough money from a bestseller, they moved to Bloomsbury in 2001 and stayed there for 20 years. In April 2021, mid-pandemic, they moved to Bath. You might have been intrigued by the uniform grey cover. This is another reason why it's hard to decide which to buy. I said just now, as long as it has this grey jacket, I know it's going to be good. The problem with that is it's almost impossible to decide which one to buy, either online or even worse, when I visited the shop in Bath, I just wanted the whole shop. Apart from the fact that they are all excellent, you can't judge the book by its cover at all because they all look the same. So most of them look like this. I'll talk about each title later, so don't worry about the titles and the authors for now. This one looks different. It does have a normal looking cover. These ones are called Persephone Classics. They have 14 of their bestsellers designed and printed like this. The inside text and paper is identical to the grey ones. They are slightly cheaper because these ones do not have the full color end papers. Oops, they're black and white inside. The end paper design is a big feature for each Persephone book. They are taken from fabrics or textile that are either designed the year the book was written or linked with the theme of the story somehow. They all have a matching bookmark as well, except my Mariana. I didn't get one for some reason. The books are printed and bound in Germany. I don't know what the paper stock is, but it's high quality. I can tell when I write on it. I'm so used to writing in the margin of every book I read now, but when I put my pen on a Persephone book, I still hesitate. When I started Mariana last week, I actually reached for a pencil. I never use pencil now. I switched to my normal pen immediately after telling myself off for showing partiality between my books, but it does show that Persephone books are quite special. So the first Persephone book I read is called William an Englishman. It was also the first book Persephone published in 1999. You see once again my long-term my long-term viewers, you know this, my obsession with impossible perfection and unrealistic ambition when it comes to reading an author, or in this case, a publisher. I wanted to start from their first book and read all the way to the last. But the busy bees at Persephone publish faster than I can read, and they are quite pricey. William, an Englishman, was originally published in 1919. It was written by Cicely Hamilton. Cicely Hamilton started as an actor in theatre and wrote plays herself. Then she was active in the women's suffrage movement in the early 20th century and made use of her theatre experience and wrote feminist and suffrage plays. When World War I broke out, she initially worked as a nurse in Paris and then made use of her theatre experience again, joined a company that set up entertainment for the troops. This was when William was written. Nicola Bowman says in the preface, "It is almost impossible to imagine how she did it, how she preserved her penciled notebooks. Bracket, she cannot surely have used a typewriter in the conditions in Normandy in the early months of 1918. The actual writing must have been done in the intervals between organizing concerts and plays and mopping up shattered buildings, while being forced to take refuge at night on one of the hills around Abbeville, returning to the hostel by day. It is likely, therefore, that William, an Englishman, was written in a tent, a khaki tent, furnished perhaps with Red Cross blankets and a camp bed, with the sound of shells and gunfire as a nightly accompaniment. We are used to war poets writing poems in these circumstances and fiancés writing letters home. We are not used to women novelists writing novels. It's an extraordinary novel, which I feel is quite different to many other Persephone books. It left a deep impression on my memory, the way Miss Buncle's book and Mariana would never do. It's not a cozy novel for a rainy afternoon or a pleasant story to cheer you up on a depressing day, the way these books are. It's a perspective shifting story that would shock one out of any petty trouble. I don't want to tell you anything about the plot. You need to go in knowing nothing to get the full effect. But just a hint. The story comes from the author's very own experience of the suffragette movement and of World War I. The author wrote this as a rough sketch of the idea for a novel. A young man and woman, enthusiastic, ignorant, who had thought of their little political scuffles as war, and who stumbled accidentally into the other kind of war, of bullets and blood and high explosives. There you go. I've said too much already. This is the second book, Persephone, published in 1999. Mariana by Monica Dickens, first published in 1940. Monica was Charles Dickens' great-granddaughter. I love that detail. Mariana is an autobiographical novel about a girl's childhood and growing up in the 1920s and 30s, in the same vein as I Captured the Castle and The Pursuit of Love. From the preface, the novel is about crushes, horses, school, raffish uncles, frocks, inconsequential jobs, love affairs. Mariana will be fun for those who like to look through other people's snap albums and listen to the usual commentary, was the waspish verdict from Christopher Barton in the New Statesman and Nation. Of course, it is Mariana's artlessness, its enthusiasm, its attention to tiny, telling domestic detail that makes it so appealing to modern readers. As a snap album, as a portrait of a certain sort of girl at a certain time in a certain place, it seems nearly 60 years after publication, entirely exotic. I completely agree. I'm this far into the book. It's interesting how an overall uneventful story can be so unputdownable. Most of this was read in about 2 or 3 sittings. I use swirly lines to mark the sentences I love, and it's full of them. I'm enjoying it very, very much. Few Eggs and No Orange. This is a non-fictional work published as number 9 by Persephone in the same year as the previous 2. The full title of the book is called Few Eggs and No Oranges, a diary showing how unimportant people in London and Birmingham lived through the war years 1940 to 45, written in the Notting Hill area of London by V.R. Hodgson. And you can see the end paper there. And I've got a photo of the author for you from the Persephone magazine. I don't know much about the history of World War II, but I think it was an extraordinary time to live through. I read a non-fictional book about the Ministry of Food during the war called Eggs or Anarchy, and really enjoyed it. This would be from an ordinary person's point of view. Interesting, both books mention eggs in their titles. It'll be interesting to see the effect on V.R. Hodgson's life by the decisions made by Lord Wootton, the Minister of Food. Persephone also published a collection of letters about life during the same period, written by a German woman living in Hamburg, called On the Other Side. You can read the 2 titles side by side and see some of the historical events from 2 perspectives. There's another magazine. There is an article in the magazine about Bath Blitz, which mentions both these titles. Published as number 35 by Persephone in 2002. Greenery Street by Dennis McHale was first published in 1925. Persephone does publish some male writers. I haven't read this one, but on Persephone's website it's recommended for newlyweds. The story is about the first year of the happy marriage of a young upper middle class couple in London. According to their catalogue, P.G. Wodehouse describes it as so good that it makes one feel that it's the only possible way of writing a book, to take an ordinary couple and just tell the reader all about them. The street is based on the real place where the author and his wife lived when they first got married. You can still visit the street and see the house today. Number 81, Miss Buncle's book by D.E. Stevenson was first published in 1934 and reprinted by Persephone in 2008. D.E. Stevenson was a Scottish writer who published more than 40 novels from 1920s to 70s. Miss Buncle's book is one of Persephone's bestsellers. It was reissued as a Persephone classic at the end of 2021. It's about the novel that Miss Buncle wrote that is based on her neighbours in a quiet village, and how that novel explodes like a bomb when the villagers start to realize it's talking about their very lives and revealing things that they are trying to hide from their neighbours. How would each person react, and would the unassuming Miss Buncle escape the witch hunt? If you are interested in finding out more about the publisher or checking out their books, there are many ways to engage with them. There are social media, of course, website and email newsletter. They used to post out physical copies of their magazines, the Persephone biannually, like that. They introduce new books, they publish and review previous ones. They also include short stories that were published decades ago. For example, in this one, There's a 1958 piece by E.M. Foster, imagining what his characters in A Room with a View are doing 50 years later. It's very short on a double-page spread. I loved it. There are small articles about the history of Bath, like the one I mentioned earlier, and an interesting one about the recent publishing landscape on the reprinting of the second generation of modern classic backlist. I loved receiving them. They stopped posting them now. Not 100% sure if it's just to me or in general. Digital copies are available on their website, but I prefer paper copies. They are so beautiful. Their sales are 80% via mail order, but they do have a beautiful shop in Bath. They also host events, and this month, from Friday 19th of April, that's next week, to Sunday 21st April, they are celebrating their 25th anniversary at the Persephone Festival. I'm gutted I can't make it. I also noticed their founder turns 80 this year. I don't know when her birthday is, but it's definitely this year. What a wonderful thing Nicola Bowman has started. I wish her a happy birthday. Making this video makes me want to look through their catalogue again and get my hands on more Persephone books. I shall now go down the rabbit hole and indulge myself in the wonderful headache of choosing just the right one or two. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one.